News came out of the UK that Queen Elizabeth, who has reigned as the head of the monarch for the last 70 years, has died at the age of 96. This morning, British doctors said they were concerned about her health. Her family rushed to her side. She passed away at her summer home there in Scotland. It has unleashed a wave of mourning there in Britain for the head of the monarch. You've had sporting events that have been canceled as a result of her death. The NFL has announced there's going to be a moment of silence before their games kick off this Sunday as well. And you have had a lot of people talking about her impact, leading the Commonwealth, leading this massive colonialism for 70 years. But there's been another conversation going on that's been taking place around the world, and that is, how do you then assess her legacy? Do we only focus on what some consider to be the good, as opposed to looking at it in its totality? If you look at something that's called hashtag Irish Twitter, you will see how they are reacting. In fact, there was this video here that was dropped. Someone, when the announcement was made, you should turn the audio up. They were cheering Lizzie's in a box. In fact, other parts of the country, I was there was some video that I pulled up. This was a scene outside of another area there in Ireland. Now, it's interesting when you begin to assess this. I saw this tweet just moments ago from Karen Hunter, Sirius XM radio show host. And she said to folks, she says, FYI, it's spiritually tacky to celebrate the death of anyone. Okay. So, and then she had a second tweet where she said, give me 1 second. She said, that said, Black Twitter, Irish Twitter, and them are going straight to hell. And some of these reactions are mad funny because two things can be true. What we've seen here, I was a little bit earlier, I saw a tweet from Eric Erickson, and he was not happy at all with journalist Wesley Lowery. Allow me to find that. So here was a tweet right here from Jamel Hill that clearly upset Eric. She said, journalists are tasked with putting legacies into full context, so it is entirely appropriate to examine the Queen and her role in the devastating impact of continued colonialism. Well, Eric wasn't happy, so Eric goes, the professional race hustlers who profit off perpetuating racial issues never disappoint in their efforts to weave racial grievance into everything. It really is impressive. Again, that was one reaction. I saw another one where he was, again, upset with something that Wesley Lowery had tweeted. And again, these reactions have been really interesting as you've seen people get mad and upset with these responses. Now, then you have this response here by this sister Uju Anya. She apparently is a professor somewhere. She just eviscerated the Queen. She said, I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating. She then said, that wretched woman and her bloodthirsty throne have fucked generations of my ancestors on both sides of the family, and she supervised a government that sponsored the genocide my parents and siblings survived. May she die in agony. Wow. Some will call that harsh. But again, I'm going to put this thing in context in a second, because Karen Attiah, this was interesting here. This was a statement that came from, let me just do this here. I'm going to pull the actual tweet up, because I thought it was very interesting when I saw this tweet. And I guarantee y'all, you're not going to have this conversation anywhere else but here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The president of Ghana sent out a tweet, and Karen responded to it. This is what the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, tweeted. My thoughts and the thoughts of all Ghanaians at home and abroad are with Queen Elizabeth II, the British monarch and the head of Commonwealth, the organization of which Ghana is a proud member, and her family in these difficult moments. I wish her the best and God's blessings. But this is what Karen tweeted. The UK rejects visa applications from Africa at twice the rate of people from other parts of the world, and is still holding on to cultural items it plundered from Ghana. But sure, let's kiss the ring. Wow. Now, I also saw, I'm gonna find in a second, there was another tweet that Karen sent out that I do think is worthy to discuss, because she made a mention about who were subjects. As a matter of fact, so she. This was one of her tweets. My great-great-grandparents worked in the British Colonial Administration, as did my grandfather for a while before independence. My father and mother were born in Ghana and Nigeria, respectively, under British rule. So here you have a opinion writer for the Washington Post who's talking about her family. She's talking about what took places. You know, this was. Let me find that tweet if I can. Oh, here it is right here, before I go to our panel here. Black and brown people around the world who were subject to horrendous cruelties and economic deprivation under British colonialism are allowed to have feelings about Queen Elizabeth. After all, they were her subjects too. Look at my panel here. It's the reason I think this is important, Karen. I'm sorry, Reese. I'm sitting there reading Karen's tweet. Is because there is this view that when a significant figure passes away, a world leader, that it's supposed to be all positive, no criticism. It's always those things can wait. But I showed the reaction of the Irish. Please tell me, what is the difference between how the Irish reacting to the death of Queen Elizabeth is different than how in Little Havana in Miami, they celebrated honking horns, firing guns, having parades when Castro died?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no difference, really. And, you know, I mean, I'm not the historian here. I believe that to Dr. Carr and you, but I'm not in the business of policing Black people in particular, their reactions to anything. I think people are completely justified in how they feel. I think if some people want to celebrate, that's on them. I'm not going to, you know, indict them for that either. But the reality is she's had, you know, she was queen for 70 years.
Is it possible to fall in love with your home?
All right.
So she's had 70 years of pomp and circumstance and kissing the ring and everybody bowing before her. And so if people want to have an honest evaluation of her record and what it means beyond these crown jewels that are stolen from Africa or these pageants that they put on, I think that that is perfectly reasonable in this moment.
See, this is an example, Erica, of what I was talking about earlier. People who literally ain't read shit. Because what we do is we go, oh, Queen Elizabeth, oh, she was just, you know, she was this nice figure, this nice woman, grandmotherly and walked around in big hats and jewels and robes and all that fun stuff. Had some kids and princes and princesses and all that sort of stuff. And people think it's all fairy tale, but the reality is that government ruled a large part of the world, ruled African nations, was a brutal regime. So it shows to me the sheer arrogance, especially of white Americans, who refuse to acknowledge what life was like for folk who were under colonial rule.
Yeah, it's par for the course. You know, they feel like they are in charge of Black people, Black labor, Black thought, Black feelings, but are free to have their own. You know, you're talking about all of those nations that monarch has ruled for since 1627, and just thinking about it wasn't that long ago in the 1960s that Barbados was given autonomy, and we know that the complexion of Barbados is reflective of ours. So when we talk about policing, you know, there's definitely over policing of Black folks, period, in this country and beyond. I think that also goes to emotional reaction, because some of the stuff that I read on Irish Twitter, I mean, it was just like, it was cold blooded. They gave no fucks about what they said with regard to Elizabeth's departure. They didn't care what people felt about it. They were speaking from people who were subject to her rule, and they were very frank and honest about it. So, you know, when we start talking about Black people, the last tweet that you read from Karen, I read that earlier myself, and I said, absolutely damn right. I don't know what that experience is. I know what my experience is in this country, but to police and tell Black people how to behave, how to comport oneself, no, not when, you know, this woman has had 70 years of reign. That didn't happen because of what you described in that descriptor. When I think about all the childcraft books I had growing up, honey, that was blood, okay? You don't sit somewhere for 70 years eating bonbons and having fresh truffles delivered because you're sweet. That was blood.
Greg, it is hard for people to do two things at one time. The reality is there are positives and there are negatives. But this notion that somehow we can't even discuss what some consider to be negative. I mean, if we're talking about how do you assess the legacy of Queen Elizabeth, it cannot be from a white Anglo-Saxon European point of view. You have to ask those in India. You have to ask those in multiple African nations, because brutality existed. Folks died. Folks were killed in order to support the United Kingdom, which she led for 70 years. So to act like that didn't happen, and so how dare these people express their view? Again, I just go back to how folks were cheering the death of Fidel Castro.
Mm-hmm. 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 The death of Hugo Chavez, the death of Muammar Gaddafi, the death of, and I'm sure there are people bristling now like, wait, are you naming dictators? Well, yeah, I need to turn off Bridgerton and Hamilton and all these silly-minded attempts to beg your master to be human in the world. And think for yourself, as you say, Roland, I have all the space in the world, particularly for the victims of the British, whether they be Ireland, which was Britain's first colony. That goes back to the 11th century. There's a full-bred white nationalist named Mel Gibson who made a whole movie about it, between Ireland and Scotland. Braveheart, y'all remember that? You know, maybe y'all heard Nas, Bravehearts. Well, that actually comes from that white-on-white beef that based on England invading. See, when they say the United Kingdom, there's a difference between England and the United Kingdom. Ask them people in Wales, ask them people in Scotland, and ask the Northern Irish how they feel. Well, we don't have to ask them because you just put it up. England is well, I don't know, maybe Spain, because Spain, everybody speaking Spanish got colonized by Spain. So between Spain and England, but certainly I would probably make the case England, because they're a lot more brutal, because unlike Spain, the English culture is threadbare. You don't go to fine English dining, after all, as you chew on your fish and chips. England is arguably the most influential criminal enterprise in world history. Elizabeth II, who ruled for 70 years and 214 days, the longest reign of a queen or monarch in England, king or queen, is probably going to be the last monarch. Charles III, when he dies, whenever that is, if he lives a few more years, will probably be presiding over the complete fracture. And you mentioned Barbados. Shout out to Mia Amor Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados. They left the Commonwealth before she died. And I understand. I understand why President Akufo-Addo said what he said. He's trying to be a diplomat because he wants to do business with the UK, right? He wants to do business with England. But I got all the room in the world for the Nigerians, like Dr. Anya, I have, who is going to be crucified at Carnegie Mellon for this, is already getting crucified for this. I have all the room in the world for Sister Atia, whose parents are Ghanaian and Nigerian, because they understand. You understand that Ghana took her independence in 1957. In 1961 is a famous moment when Elizabeth II, at 35 years old, goes in to dance with Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. Up until 1960, when Ghana declared itself constitutional republic, she was still, from 57 to 60, you know her official title in Ghana? She was the Queen of Ghana. If you in the Commonwealth, she's still your queen. Her face on your money. They got to change the money now from her face to Charles III's face. Your master's still on your money. Mia Moore Motley said later for that, she made Rihanna a national hero and said, we getting out the Commonwealth. Both of those things, chef's kiss. The point is that Jamaica coming soon. What you're going to see now is, with this woman gone, they might say, okay, later for that, because Britain still rules over an empire, finally. Her last official act. Her last official act on Tuesday was to swear in this new prime minister, Liz Truss. Why the prime minister of England, who's about to wreak havoc up there, by the way, why is she going out there to this woman's vacation castle, one of many, by the way, the biggest recipient of welfare in the history of humanity, organized humanity is the British royal family. Why is she going out there to get the queen? Because even though it might just look ceremonial, you have to understand the power of culture. When you worship things like this, you are buying into a system that has had its foot on your neck for 500 years. And if you think that the reaction is a little out of hand, as Karen Hunter say, you shouldn't celebrate death. Well, that's the protocol African people have always had. But let me tell you another protocol we have always had. If somebody slap you in your damn face, you need to slap them back. And Elizabeth II, following in the long line of British murderers, been slapping the world in the face for centuries. So go on into the next phase and pray to God that you don't see Gandhi, and Nehru, and Nasser, and pray you don't see Kwame Nkrumah walking around wherever you going, and you better not see nobody from the Caribbean, the Jamaican Blue Mountain Maroons, and oh my God, if you run into them niggeros from Barbados, you in real trouble, Elizabeth II. So all we can say is, when we get over there, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in 80 or 90 years when baby Archie make it over there, you and him and your husband, who call him a monkey, they're going to have another kind of conversation. But I'm going to stop right there.
I just want those who are watching and listening to understand that we can have a well-rounded conversation.
Yes.
And I just simply think, Erica, Reese, and Greg, this is a perfect example of a failure in this country. When there's a mass shooting, there's no time for that. This is a time to only think about, the bodies aren't even cold. Some breaking news. Multiple people shot in downtown Uvalde a few moments ago.
What?
A few moments ago, police were responding to multiple people shot in downtown Uvalde, Texas. Just 4 months after 19 kids were gunned down in the school, 2 adults. That's the thinking in this country. Oh, no. We shouldn't be discussing those things right now. Don't bring those things up right now. But no, we should. And I think it does a disservice to people today who have no understanding of history to not look at the entire life, career, and the spectrum of Queen Elizabeth, just like when Ronald Reagan died. Oh, no. Reagan was a great man.
Shit.
So we are to ignore all of this? No. I don't celebrate someone dying. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is RMartin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.